Hello everyone. I wanted to just briefly address something that I've noticed people are confused about in Ed Parker's Kenpo, and that would be the salutation at the beginning of the form, because we have 4 variations of that. Right? There's a total of 7 forms we got to worry about, plus there's short versions and long versions, there's actually more. Right? Short form 1, long form 1, short form 2, and long form 2 have 1 variation of that salutation. Then short form 3, long form 3, and long form 4 have a second variation of a salutation. And if you created your own short form 4, which you're actually supposed to do, then that would also be the same group, of course, right? Then long form 5 is the third variation of the salutation. And long form 6 and 7 is the 4th variation of the salutation. Mr. Parker never created a long form 8. He discarded the old knife set and he was going to, and then he created long form 7 as a double stick set or double club set. And then he was, his plan was to create a new long form 8, but he passed away before he could. So nobody knows what the salutation would have been for that, right? Now, the reason why this is important at all is because the ending of the salutation at the beginning gives you the starting point of the first technique. And we move from point of origin. We don't have any unnecessary chambering movements, right? So in some of the forms, the first technique starts here, right? Short form 3 is a good example of that, right? But that's only in some of the forms, right? Most people know that long form 5 starts right here. After you did your this and this and this, and you're going to go right into here, right? There's not much confusion on that, right? But there's confusion in the first couple of forms particularly, right? So short form 1, long form 1, short form 2, and long form 2, like I said, have the first variation, right? And by the way, I'm going to substantiate all of this, or show you how it's documented, by using Mr. Parker's own words, right? So Mr. Parker created these manuals right here. I'm going to show you this for a moment. This was a journal for the instructor camp in Pasadena, California, at Barbara Hale School in 1989. And then Mr. Parker did a second camp. This was a 2-day camp, by the way. This was 2 days of Ed Parker, a whole Saturday and Sunday. So it was fantastic. We were able to pick his brain, and we went over a lot of material, right? And then a year later, in 1990, he did a second one, also at Barbara Hale School in Ventura, right here. And so I have to refer to this because this has long form 5 in it. Right? So we need to, in order to understand Mr. Parker's words, we need to understand, we need to differentiate between a couple of different terms because there are some similar words that can really confuse people. Right? If you look at the language on how he describes the salutation of long form 2, I think you can understand what I'm talking about here. All right, hopefully you can maybe take a snapshot on your from the screen and then read it when you have more time, or read it at your leisure. But you notice he's talking about execute the salutation, colon, right in the second line, he's talking about that, right? And then he's talking about 1, like part 1 of this, right? Salute. So that's the first thing that confuses people, because clearly Mr. Parker is differentiating between the term salutation and the term salute. Okay? If we're talking about a full salutation, and he will refer to that in some of the forms, full salutation means this. All right? But he's also talking about, like in this one, in long form 2, you don't do that. The first step is the salute. So the salute means this. And no more than that. That's a salute. Okay? He then refers to symbol of friendly and unarmed, which is that. Meditating horse is this. Prayer of forgiveness is this. All right? So, now if you look back at how he described the salutation in long form 2, the meditating horse occurs twice. Okay? So what he's describing there, now this is all after you signify, right? I'm not talking about signifying at the beginning. I'm talking everything that happens after you signify which form you are doing, whatever you might be doing, right? So in long form, short, actually, no 4 of them, right? Short 1, long 1, short 2, long 2. Here's how you're supposed to be doing this. Number 1 is salute. Number 2, symbol of friendly and unarmed. Number 3, meditating horse. Number 4, prayer of forgiveness. Then return to meditating horse as you look up. And this is your starting position for the first move in the form. If this is short form 1, let me make sure I have room here. If this is short form 1 or long form 1, here is your starting position for your inward block as your left arm retracts, right? If this is short form 2, and it's very relevant in short form 2, here is your starting position for both of your arms. Because in short form 2, Mr. Parker taught us what he referred to as a wraparound. If you look at my left hand will just stay there. Forget the right hand for a moment. My left hand stays, he is already checking. We move from point of origin, and that Parker's Kenpo. I wrap around this arm, my hand is already there, and I literally wrap around my left arm. So of course we do that as we are blocking, right? And then after we chop on the second movement right here, right? Remember it's inward block chop, right? This now stays there and becomes the next check, so don't retract this back. Leave it there and wrap around that one with your body into the next movement, right? That's how you're supposed to be doing that. So, well, we need the starting position in order to be able to do that on the first move. So it all kind of falls together. And it all makes sense. I hope that makes sense, right? Long form 2, of course, you do retract this arm because you're preparing for that eye strike, right? So that's you want a different point of origin there. Now this changes in short form 3. The salutation, second variation is short form 3. So again, I'm going to refer you to Mr. Parker's manual right here. And I'm quite certain that if you look at the regular belt manuals for the 1987 versions, it's just exactly the same. So here again, from the 1989 journal, here he simply says, there you go, execute the full salutation. All right? So in other words, if you do short form 3, you do all of that. Same thing for long form 3, same thing for long form 4. And if you created your own short form 4, which is what every Parker black belt actually is supposed to be doing, there's no one short form 4. Everybody creates their own. Right? You would use the same salutation there as well. Right? Because you would start with the same technique. You would still be starting with protecting fans, right? Now, long form 5 is different, and everybody kind of knows that one. I've never seen somebody mess up the salutation for long form 5 because you kind of have to from this position right here. You kind of, if you change that, you would really mess up the first technique, right? So it's more obvious how the ending point of the salutation is the beginning of your first technique here in long form 5. So people are less likely to make a mistake there, right? And then, of course, you move to long form 6. Now, that was not covered in that week, in those 2 weekends. So I'm going to refer to Mr. Parker's actual regular manual that he had just before he passed away. Okay, that's part of, I can't show you the whole thing here, that this stuff is copyrighted. I do not own the copyright to this, so I'm pretty sure I can get away with just showing you that portion, right? But you see how he says right at the top still needs to be corrected. But he wasn't uncertain about how to do the salutation. What needed to be corrected is the way he worded it, right? We all fairly much know, again, there's not much of a controversy here regarding long form 6, right? We all know that we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then circle this way, right? So how come? It's because we have 5 fingers, that's why. In other words, you signify short through short form 1 all the way through long form 5 with just one hand, right? Short 1, long 1, short 2, long 2, and so on. You can do that all the way to long form 4 and long form 5, and now we run out of fingers. So what do? We flip it over. So it's the opposite, or opposite and reverses was something Mr. Parker was very big on. So if we're going to flip this over for long form 5 or long form 7, well, then we're also going to, at the very end, flip this over. Make sense? So long form 6 then goes this way, because we're here now. Make sense? So when you're signifying this way, with your, for all the way until long form 5, you're basically facing, or your arms are facing one way. When we go to long form 6, instead of going this way, we're going that way. That's really all it is, right? It is to make the whole idea of having to go up to here for 6 and 7. It's just to make that match and have a counterpart in the way we salute. All right? So I think that was it. I don't think I left anything out. I hope that made sense to you guys, and I hope that you appreciated that. I see a lot of people who have a difficulty with or you're confused at the very beginning, particularly with short 1, long 1, short 2, and long 2. But I've also seen some people that do like long form 3 from a horse stance. You're not supposed to do that, okay? So I hope that helped, and have a good night.